Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the original Mets Guys podcast. How are we doing? I'm doing well. I think we're all nervous. We are still sponsored by Shop the Shirt, so go to shoptheshirt.com and put in OMG Pod to get 5% off your order. We're back here for episode 4, and we have another guest, our guy Fley. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
That is great. We're excited to have you, and we're excited to have a fun night. Father, how are you doing?
Keep checking my phone to see some news from Juan Soto, but in terms of this podcast, we're going to get to that. But I'm excited to have Fley over here, rocking a killer Islanders hat right there. And we don't really talk a lot of hockey over here because we don't really know anything about hockey. But technically, I'm an Islander fan, even though I couldn't name you a single player on the team. Ever since Pierre Turgeon left, I couldn't tell you anyone.
Yeah, I love that. I only have 2 of these big hats, and it's the orange one, so I wear it for like whenever I'm talking Mets. I'm trying to get myself a Mets one, but you can't just like make a Mets hat. You have to like get the trademark and everything. So I've been trying to get in contact with the organization and get myself a big Mets one.
For everybody who's going to ask, because I know people are going to ask immediately once this comes out, Fley, what is the brand of this hat?
So I've been trying to get them to sponsor me for a while, but listen, they're a great brand. It's Noggin Boss. They sell all like it's college sports. It's every single NFL team. The Islanders one, I'm pretty sure they made it. Like they only sell it at UBS Arena. So if you want to get one of those, go to the game, and it's on like the second level at one of the tables. But Noggin Boss. They have a lot of great hats, a lot of great selections.
We need the Mets to trademark so we can get some big Mets hats.
100%.
Because I would love one. I think they're hilarious. They're great. Yeah. All right, so let's jump right into this. Fley, we got some questions for you. At what point in your life did you become a diehard Mets fan?
I was young. My dad is an enormous Mets fan too. Like my dad's crazy about sports. Forget it. With the Jets, when it comes to the Jets, my dad is a maniac. But like the Mets too. Very early, I was probably like 3 or 4. My grandfather had a connection with a guy who had season tickets. We used to sit right on the dugout at Shea Stadium when I was growing up till I was about like 12, 13. We literally used the third base dugout as cup holders. That's how close we were. But when I was like 3 years old, I was all in on the Mets and this miserable existence.
Was there one moment or one specific, one moment that you can remember that made you fall in love? Or was it kind of, with me, I grew up a Mets fan, so I'm already immediately a Mets fan.
At the same time, you did talk about that Wilmer Flores moment crying on the field as like, a significant moment in your Mets fandom.
Right.
So I guess that's the question for you, Flay, is like, is there a moment that like when you think back, and it could be, using the third base dugout as your cup holder, but is there a moment that made you say, I love and hate this team?
I actually do remember there's one thing that comes to mind. It was a very random game in the middle of the season, but I don't know if I'm sure you guys remember Joe McEwing. I'm sure we were expecting a Joe McEwing reference on tonight's podcast, but
Super Joe,
he killed Randy Johnson. I remember Randy Johnson. He dominated him, and Randy Johnson came to New York, pitched against the Mets. It was like a random game and got absolutely shelled. I'm pretty sure McEwing hit 2 home runs. And Randy Johnson was a big, intimidating guy. He was like my favorite pitcher to watch. Him coming off the field, he came right off the field, right in front of me, and like the crowd, how loud everybody was yelling, him getting shelled out in the 3rd inning, like that was a moment where I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like this is what I want. Like the crowd was buzzing, like it was a fantastic environment, and I really like that day. I was like, this is awesome. I can't wait to do this for the rest of my life.
I'm sure at that moment you did not know how much misery that you'd be dragged into.
Nope, absolutely not. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Here we go, by the way. You ready for this? Ready for this?
Uh-oh.
May 21st, 2000.
Okay, then that's what it was. That's crazy. You pulled that up. It's like having a baseball encyclopedia over there. Wow. That's crazy.
By the way, literally a baseball, anything. We were talking last episode about the Hall of Fame, and was it about the Hall of Fame? You brought up some random shortstop.
He's not random. Omar Vizquel, Hall of Famer. He's not random.
Hall of Famer, yes.
He's not.
Where
He's
does the
not
best shortstop
and
set?
you knew like every 11 Gold Gloves or whatever it was. You just happened to know it.
well, okay. Well, in fairness, I did have to look up to see exactly what his stats were, but I do appreciate that. But I'll tell you something, by the way. You know what you remind me of? Shea Stadium, because Shea Stadium, I don't know. There's something really cool about Shea Stadium. I remember a game against the Braves, right? Sitting a couple rows behind the Braves batter's box, on deck circle. Sorry, on deck circle, and I was just going to town on Sid Bream. You suck, you're the worst, dude. You know, all that stuff. Mets are up 1-0. He comes up, hits a 2-run bomb, comes back around. As he's walking back to the dugout, just looks at me and smiles.
That must have felt great.
Yeah, by the way, the Mets lost 2 on that game.
Damn.
Ow. Alrighty. So, Flay, I got to ask you, we ask this to all of our guests who come on. Can you tell us your top 5 Mets of all time?
I think my top 5 Mets of all time. I think for me, number 5 is Dwight Gooden. And I know maybe he might be a little higher in some lists, but I feel like there's some guys who had a little more longevity, did a little more for the Mets. Doc Gooden, absolutely top 5, integral part in them winning the World Series in 1986. Number 4, I go Jerry Koosman. I think he's really the forgotten guy. He's a forgotten guy on that 69 team. Everybody wants to talk Tom Seaver. Mets don't win the World Series in 1969 without Jerry Koosman. Very long, very good career with the New York Mets.
Number
yeah, I thought it was longer. And very good pitcher.
I wear his or wore his number.
Oh yeah,
36. Yeah.
For him or like, was that because of him?
He was
a little bit before your time.
He was one of yes. Just a little bit, but he was one of the reasons. A couple other reasons, but he was one of them.
Yeah, this one might turn some heads. For me, number 3 is Jacob deGrom. I think deGrom was so dominant for so many years. 2 Cy Youngs. Again, another integral part of the 2015 team that made that run. Probably the most, I wouldn't say the best, obviously the best pitcher of all time in Mets history is coming up. Number 2, David Wright. I love David Wright. That's really that's from the heart. He probably might be a little lower in some lists, but I love David Wright. He was like my hero growing up. And then number 1, obviously Tom Seaver. I think everybody would agree.
Not me, except for you, yeah. All right. Yeah, he had David Wright number 1 and Tom Seaver number 2.
Okay, I think you could flip flop them either way. I absolutely think you can go one way or another, but there's a reason Tom Seaver's got a statue in front of Citi Field. And I'm sure someday David
Wright will get one at some point in time. Just like his number apparently is getting retired July 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Against the Reds, which I would love to go to that game, but that would require me going to New York.
So let me ask you, Flay, where do you put Mike Piazza then?
Mike Piazza, I had trouble with this because I wanted to put Piazza on the list. He actually was the first player I ever idolized, but I have him right outside looking in. Again, I think the longevity aspect of Mike Piazza, like he wasn't. I didn't feel like he was on the team long enough to really get on the list, but he's absolutely one of the greatest players in Mets history. I just think there's other guys that had better numbers, better history, longer careers. Even like deGrom was on that same list, but deGrom was the best pitcher in baseball for about 4 years. I think that's why I elevated him on the list and didn't put Piazza. But again, there's plenty of people outside looking in. I thought about putting Carlos Beltran on the list too, but couldn't sneak him on.
Our guest last week had Jose Reyes in there
At number 5.
At number 5, yeah.
I guess you could make an argument for it. He had some good years, but
listen, I think if you're only thinking about the last 25 years, right? Because that's the kind of, he was like, who are the top 5 players that I saw, right? Mm-hmm. So he put Tom Seaver on there because as a Met fan you have to, but he put Jose Reyes in there because he is on that list of players that he saw, and I think if you think about the last 25 years, top 5, Jose Reyes will be on that list.
Yeah, if you're talking like from what we saw and you're talking about the absolute most talented players, Jose Reyes has to be on that list for sure. And and maybe top 3, top 2, maybe even like you could make the argument, but I don't know. I don't think he cracks the top 5, just in my eyes.
I'm with you on that one. Don't doubt.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that was a little bit of a shocker coming there. We definitely did not expect that. Real quick, just let everybody know where to find you on the socials and everything like that.
Okay, so TikTok is where I'm mostly at. It's Flavor Flay. I'm a miserable sports fan. I mean, it's very, isn't it obvious? Like, I got my Jets hat over here. And I really just talk about how much I hate my teams for the most part. X also Flavor Flay. YouTube also Flavor Flay. I just changed that actually yesterday. It was Coach Flay because my original streaming idea was to coach college football 25, and that did not work out. So I switched that, and yeah, that's it. I'm on YouTube. I probably should get to Instagram soon, but not yet.
I actually just recently played my first ever online game of college football 25, and it is probably the most toxic game I've ever played in my entire life. It's more toxic than Call of Duty. The trash talk was unreal, and the game kicked me out because it said that the guy I was playing was too hard for me.
Yeah, there's some very good players out there. We're that with everything now. You see, with like OG Fortnite, I put that on the other day, and it was miserable. Like all these kids that are just like it's so good. But the same thing with every game now. People just get too good at it, and it's like not fun to go online as like a casual someone who has a job during the day going on and trying to play games like this.
You go on and play one game before you go to sleep, and all of a sudden,
yeah, you got a guy who's trained.
You turn on the game, and you get killed 4 different times right away.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk some MLB contracts. As the recent, not so recent, phenomenon with some MLB contracts. I don't know, not phenomenon. That's probably not the right word, but
it's not a bad word.
It's definitely not a bad word. That's for sure. There's only one bad word here. Well, there's a couple, but there's one really bad word.
Oh, you got to show everybody the sewer jar.
Do you have it or do I have it? I'll be. Wait, take a slight intermission. I will be right back.
I'll explain to Flavor to Mr. Flay over here what's going on. So go find the thing. We have this. We have a rule here that we don't say the other New York baseball team's name.
Okay.
It's a rule in our house. You're not allowed to say that name. It's a dirty word.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime any of us, we excuse our guests, but if any one of us say the other New York team's name by accident, we have to put $5 in the dirty word jar, right? So
Okay.
we actually have it here this week. We brought it.
I'm going to go get it really quickly. I'll be right back.
And
I like that.
Yeah, because there's some things just not acceptable, and saying that name is high on the list in our house. There are times where kids will come in. My kids' friends will come in wearing that merchandise, and it's very hard for me to allow them in my house.
So right here we have the. I don't know if you can read it, but it says "dirty Y word jar."
Yes.
And for those who are constant watchers of our show, you know that both of us have said it once. So we have 5, and we have $10 every time we say that word. It will be added to.
So I got to ask, what's the goal in the end with the jar? Like, what are you going to use that money for? What's like
the goal is to give as little charity as possible.
As little charity as possible.
But that money we're gonna give away to charity. At
charity of some choice of some.
Okay, that's a good cause. I like it.
Hey, Steve, Uncle Steve, if you sign Juan Soto, we'll give it to the charity of your choice.
That is true. And if you re-sign for $150, then we'll give it to you, whatever charity you want. And moving on to going back to what I was talking about, some MLB contract situation with the deferring. So it's not recent, like we talked about on last week's show. There's a very certain Met at every July 1st or June 1st?
July 1st.
July 1st gets paid, and we all know that very well as Bobby Bonilla Day. I just got a notification that says the best guess from a league source is Juan Soto will reach a decision tonight. So
Hmm.
that's some fun news. Hopefully, before we end this, we can extend it and talk and celebrate, pop some champagne if we have.
Hmm.
So, anyways, let's get back to it. Contract deferrals. What are we thinking? Does there need to be a cap on deferrals? What are our overall thoughts on deferrals?
See, with deferrals, I think like the Dodgers are doing a great job utilizing it. I think there's nothing wrong with doing deferrals. I think it works for everybody. It's kind of like a future me problem situation with the way the economy works. It's probably like it probably works out for the teams. The Dodgers are just using it better than everybody and anybody's ever had, and the league's got to catch up, I think. And then it's a great financial decision for these players who like will get paid well past their career. I think there's nothing wrong with it, and it's just crazy that the Dodgers are the only one who figured out to utilize it as well as they have. I feel like teams are going to catch up, and also on the Bobby Bonilla thing, the Mets need to just have a parade every year. They need to get Bobby Bonilla at Citi Field every year on July 1st. There's got to be a big party. Stop making this a big joke. Make it like Bobby Bonilla Day. We bring him out on the field. He throws the first pitch. Like he gets paraded around Citi Field. We make it a celebratory day because it really doesn't matter anymore. We're not the LOL Mets that we used to be.
My view on the deferrals is that you can't have a team that's over $1 billion in deferrals like the Dodgers are. There needs to be some limit, some cap, right? We know that there's no salary cap or floor cap in the MLB, and I don't think there has to be. But I think there needs to be a deferral cap, and at some point in time, once you reach a certain amount, you just can't defer money anymore, right? Because you look at Shohei Ohtani, $680 million of his contract, or however much it was deferred. That's a little bit outrageous, right? Now they have all this space to all this money to use to sign more guys, and that's how they're becoming this dynasty powerhouse.
I think that deferrals have been a part of baseball for so long. We have guys who have deferrals in their contracts that we don't know about. It's a part of baseball. It's a part of contract structuring, and it's not going to go away. The question that I think could be asked during the next CBA is, and what I would like to see as a baseball fan is some percentage cap of how much money a player can defer over the time of their contract, and I think it should be 51%, meaning you have to be paid 51% of your contract during the time that you're playing on that contract. 49% of it you can defer, right? But you got to be able to. You have to be able to make. You have to earn that money while you're playing. You can't just defer it. Listen, if not for the whole Bernie Madoff scandal, right? This whole Bobby Bonilla thing wouldn't be a topic. Nobody would even know about it, right? But the fact that the Wilpons got so screwed by Bernie Madoff, and now have all this money that's still being paid out so far ahead. That's why it's part. That's why it's a story every July 1st, right? If Bernie Madoff was a legit investor and not a Ponzi schemer, then it would just be a part of everyone else, like everybody else. But I think that's why Bobby Bonilla's contract is as famous as it is, because the Wilpons got so screwed by it. At the same time, you want to put a cap as to how much money a team can defer, $1 billion, $500,000, whatever. That's a business decision for the team. But I would like to see some sort of cap of how much you can defer over the time of your contract. You need to be earning 51% of your money while you're playing. And then if you want to defer the rest, that's your decision. And if the team's on board with it, have at it.
I would like to see it a little bit more. I'd like to see maybe a 55-60%, just because I'm really not a fan of deferred money. And I get it. Like you said, there are some players out there who have deferred money that we don't know. It's not very popular that Francisco Lindor and Edwin Diaz have deferred money in their contracts, but that's what it is. The difference is that not 90% of their contract isn't deferred. So That's the difference.
Yeah, listen,
That's
I think the fact that the Otani deferred as much as he did made it such a big deal. I think, and now that the Dodgers got Blake Snell and deferred, a chunk of change on his deal, that's to be a topic. It'll be interesting
and
to see
Tom
what.
and Tommy Edman. They deferred $15 million from Tommy Edman's contract.
Right. So I think that's pretty standard. If you look at the other contracts that are out there, $15 million to defer, that's really cool. But what I'm interested to see is what Juan Soto, how much money of Juan Soto's contract is going to be deferred, because there's going to be some significant deferments in there, or deferrals, one of the two words.
Deferrals, not deferments. I don't think that's a real word.
It just became a word. And I think that that's going to be interesting to see how that plays off. And it'll be interesting to see when the Mets sign him, how we feel about deferrals then.
I don't think that there's going to be some crazy deferrals in Soto's contract, because I remember there was a report. I don't know who reported it. Either it was Heyman or one of those guys who said that don't expect Juan Soto to take deferred money. I agree there probably will be some deferrals, but I don't think it'll be. Let's say his contract's $750 million. I don't think he's going to defer 500 of it. Maybe he'll defer 100 million, but he's not going to defer anywhere near 25 to 30% of that contract.
We'll find out.
We will find out shortly, I hope.
Maybe before the night is over.
Maybe before the night is over. That would be phenomenal. The thing is that if we end here and then he signs and we got to go back on and record our immediate reaction video. All right, so let's move on to some recent Mets news.
Can I actually bring, because this is something that we were talking about this before also, and I love to get the take on it. Salary cap in baseball, yes, no. Salary floor in baseball, yes, no, and why? Let me hear your thoughts, Fley. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan for the salary cap. I think with the Dodgers, it's probably the first team we've seen in a while that spent the most money and won a World Series. I don't think paying players wins you anything, but it definitely hurts if you don't. I agree with the salary floor. I think teams should have to spend more money. There's too many of these owners out there. Like, you look at Pittsburgh, you look at Oakland. Those are like the real two big examples of teams that completely refuse to spend money and refuse to put anything into their teams. And it's not good for baseball. It's not good for these cities, for these fans. There needs to be some sort of salary floor. I'm all for the players making whatever they can make. Make as much money as you can. And it's good for baseball when teams are spending, when like this Soto free agency buzz, which I'm not liking a lot of the rumors out there. It's not looking good. But it's cinema. It's absolutely like, it's great for baseball. It's great for these players. I don't think there should be a cap, but definitely a floor. It's about time these owners be forced to spend.
I agree. I think we haven't had this free of a free agent with this big of a name, right? When Otani was a free agent, we really knew that he wasn't going anywhere besides LA, right? We kind of knew that. Same thing with Yamamoto, right? We knew that. Aaron Judge, we knew he was going to go back, right? This is so exciting with Juan Soto. Now, imagine every offseason, every team had to spend a certain amount of money. Could you just imagine the bidding wars that's going on? And next year it's going to be Vlad Guerrero Jr., right? That's another really exciting free agent. So yeah, I agree with Fley. I think there needs to be some sort of floor.
Yeah, Vlad's not gonna touch Juan Soto money or Otani money.
Definitely not. But it's still going to be an exciting bidding war between whoever's bidding.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I'm old. Baseball has survived so far without a salary cap, and Fley, you said it before. How many teams with the most money have won championships, right? Mm-hmm. This year was, I think, the first year that I could really remember clearly, where it was so clear. I know that maybe you could say the 2009 championship that the other New York team won, all right? But you can also say that was also the tail end of their, their core four players. Um, but it happens to be when that team was winning their championships, they did it all internally. It wasn't with it was they added pieces. They added the Paul O'Neill. They added the Tino Martinez, but they didn't win when they got A-Rod, right? Even though that was a trade, not even a contract thing, right? Um, they didn't win when they bought their players. So I don't think the salary cap is a baseball thing. I do want to see a salary floor, right? Teams like Oakland, teams like Pittsburgh, Miami, um, they need to, Washington's not afraid to spend, right? But there certainly is hesitancy, but there needs to be a floor, or give the guys that, you know, um, that are getting some of these minor deal contracts, right? Give them a major league contract because they are good enough to get it. They're just, teams don't want to spend it. But if you are if you're an Oakland, right? There's another team that's escaping my mind right now.
The Cubs are very famously known for not spending
Yeah, the
money.
Cubs, the White
Cubs
Sox.
How about the
Right?
Cubs had that whole core that won the World Series and ended up not keeping one player from that core?
Because they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah.
Right. No, think about this, right? So we're going to get to this, but Luis Severino, right, just signed a $67 million contract. That's the highest contract that the A's have handed out in their franchise, right? The next lowest team's highest contract was Benintendi by the White Sox for like $75 million, right?
Yeah.
Right, but there are players that deserve major league contracts that aren't getting it because teams like the White Sox don't want to invest money in their teams. Teams like the Marlins that go through some crazy ownership stuff every 5 minutes, that they never know what's going to happen. But there needs to be a salary cap floor, and or salary floor, not cap, salary floor. I don't know what the number should be. 85, 90, 100 million, 1 in 10, I don't know, but definitely a floor. So 51% on deferrals, or 49% on deferrals, really, and then salary floor. That's my major league contract topic of discussion. By the way, it's so funny to see us. We're like all trying to like keep our eyes on the rumors here, and like
Yeah. I'm looking down. I'm refreshing Twitter every like 2 minutes, waiting for something because it seems like it's happening tonight.
It does. Everything is pointing in that direction. Somebody just said, tune into MLB Network right now, but we can't do that, unfortunately. All right, so let's move on to some Mets news. Recently, we signed Frankie Montas. How do we feel about that signing? Do we like it? Do we hate it? Is it okay, all right? Or is this another Stearns move where it's going to pan out in the right direction?
I mean, yeah, to me, I think this is absolutely David Stern's MO, is signing these guys to, like, where he's not paying these pitchers too much, like kind of on prove-it deals. I'm not a big fan of Frankie Montas. I don't think Frankie Montas is a very good pitcher. But I got to trust David Stearns because I also had a fit when they signed Sean Manaea last year. I thought that was the worst signing that the Mets had in like 20 years. I hated Sean Manaea, and it turned out to be really good. I think you got to trust David Stearns and every move he's made. Like, he made the Severino move, and Severino was money. He made the Sean Manaea move, and Sean Manaea was our ace last year. Do I think Frankie Montas is going to be that? Probably not, but clearly Jeremy Hefner's doing something with his pitching staff. Maybe he can get the most out of Frankie Montas, and we'll have a great arm. Because I don't know about you guys, I don't really want anything to do with Corbin Burns.
Me and you have the exact same take on it. We actually, a while back, before I believe the offseason started, we talked about Corbin Burns, and we both decided that we didn't want him for the exact same reason.
We had the same exact reason why we don't want him. He gives up way too many home runs to right-handed hitters, and pitched last year in a ballpark that for a righty to hit a home run, you got to hit a moonshot. So I think his numbers are just going to get inflated wherever he ends up.
Yep. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm. Listen, you give me Corbin Burns for 3 to 5 years, I'll take him.
I'd agree with that.
I mean, my issue is that first of all, everything that I'm seeing, it seems like the Mets aren't in on Corbin Burns. Um, that's just that's what I've been seeing. I've been seeing a lot of tweets that it's kind of Mets aren't really in on aren't in on Burns or Max Fried, but they are in on a lot of smaller name pitchers, like Bueller, like Sean Manaea, like the other smaller market name, not smaller market, but smaller player names. But my take on Frankie Montas is that it seems as if the Mets are the new pitching lab in Major League Baseball. We take broken pitchers and we fix them, right? When we signed Severino last year, he had a 6-something, coming off a 6-something ERA season, came in here and was, I think a sub 3.40 ERA. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a phenomenal year. You look at Sean Manaea, we switched him up and he was lights out. Jose Quintana finally found it last year, and he was solid. So I don't hate it. I actually like it. I think he's going to turn out to do well. And I don't know if you guys don't remember this, but he carved up the Mets all season long.
Yeah, he is a guy who tells the Mets.
Yeah. So I'll tell you. First of all, Severino with a 3.9 ERA.
Oh, okay. So I was completely wrong.
No, it's okay. You were probably thinking about Manaea, who had a 3.47 ERA. That's really
whatever it was. But still, him coming off a 6 ERA season.
Yeah. So
right,
listen, let me tell you my take here. Right, Frankie Montas is a good pitcher. Right. Fley, when the Mets signed Sean, I've been a fan of Sean Manaea for a very long time. For a very long time, I've been a fan of Sean Manaea back to his Oakland days, which is not that long ago. But I was excited when they signed Sean Manaea. I was less excited when they signed Severino, but I thought it was, why not take a flyer on him for 2024. Frankie Montas is a good pitcher. The question is, can he put it together? And I think that's what we are kind of banking on Stern seeing in him, that he is a fixable pitcher who has good stuff, and Jeremy Hefner to do what he's done to all to do all the magic that he's done with a lot of the other Mets pitchers over the time that he's been with us. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Frankie Montas. I think it's a very, very, very David Stern signing. Very David Stern signing. Him, and then you add now Clay Holmes to the mix, right? I mean, you can't get more David Sterns than these guys, which makes me think that Corbin Burns isn't coming to the Mets because, he's going to require multiple years, more than 3 years, and
more than what we're going to want to give him. Mm-hmm. Right, Corbin Burns is going to want a long-term contract.
Well,
I want to pause you. I want to pause you in your thought. Andy Martino said Soto's situation appears to be coming to a head this evening. So it seems as if we will be getting news shortly on Soto, which brings us to our next topic. Is the Juan Soto final contract stage? How are we feeling? Are we feeling confident? Are we not confident? Because I know we're all nervous, that's for sure. But how confident are we right now that Juan Soto will end up a New York Met?
Right now, I'm nervous. If I had to take a guess right now, I don't think it would be the Mets. It seems like there's a lot of talk that the Yankees went over 700, but for me, I don't understand why he wouldn't be a Met. It seems like he's waiting for the highest bid. We know the highest bid is going to come from the New York Mets. It's going to. And the situation's perfect. He wants to go to a stable place where he's going to win. And it's good. That's the Mets. There's not a more perfect fit for Juan Soto right now than the New York Mets. So if he doesn't come to the Mets, I have to question what his actual motives were, because I don't think then I wouldn't believe anything that has come out about him before then, because there's not a better spot than the Mets. But right now, I'm definitely nervous and I'm not confident.
When you look at money on the money side of things, that there's just no way anybody can outbid Steve Cohen, right?
Yeah, so
There,
I don't think it comes down to that. I think it's going to come down to the same money, the same terms, and just who he wants to play with, who he wants to play for. Because you're right. At this point, it seems like Hal Steinbrenner is accessing his father's soul, and just trying to like do whatever he wants. So when you're at $730 million, what's another $20 million? Seriously, what's another $20 million? What's another
and when you're
another
and when
$40 million?
well, it's more money, right? When you look at who his agent is, it's Scott Boras, right? At the end of the day, Scott's going to try to get as much money as possible, and that's where he's going to be headed. And if money's not all of what's factoring into Soto's decision here, remember a while back when the first meeting started, it came out that Soto asked Hal, what's your plan with player development and the farm system? The other team in New York, they have the 29th ranked farm system in Major League Baseball. The Mets have a top 10 farm system in Major League Baseball. I don't see a world where Steve gets outbid and where Juan Soto doesn't end up a Met. That being said, I am extremely nervous that he makes a boneheaded decision and stays with the other team in New York and stays in that ugly pinstripe jersey.
So listen, I think at the end of the day, the money thing is not going to be the in the equation. Both the Steinbrenner family and Steve Cohen can put as much money into this as Juan Soto wants, and no one's going to be outbid for him, right? None of these two guys are going to be outbid for him. Where does Juan Soto want to go? The Mets do seem like the more logical decision for Juan Soto. I've never been more confident with a free agent projection than I have with Juan Soto to the Mets. So yeah, now you're looking all over Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and it's it's looking like it's going to the other team. It's looking like it's going to the other team, which makes me more confident that it's going to that he's signing with the Mets, because Steve Cohen doesn't allow any leaks out.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Cohen has Juan Soto in the bag, and again, Juan Soto, if you sign with the other team, you're going to make me look like an idiot. Don't do that to me.
And there's two things too. Like with this whole thing. First of all, way too many people on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, have become they're trying to break the news. There's way too many people out there that are clearly don't have a clue what they're talking about until Jeff Passan or until one of these guys say something. That's when I'll believe it. I don't want any of these reporters that I've never heard of telling me where he's going. But also, actually, I forgot. It's kind of odd. Isn't it kind of odd that the only people that are talking about the decision coming tonight are Mets beat reporters? I haven't seen it from anywhere else other than Martino, Puma.
I believe Heyman on MLB Network or whatever, wherever he just was on, just said I'm trying to find what I just read, but I reloaded and I lost it. But it seems like everybody's getting that Soto signing tonight from Heyman on MLB Network. But I agree. Everybody needs to calm down and be quiet. And like I said in last week's episode, Brady from Met News on Instagram asked, who do we think is going to break the news? And I said, it'll probably be Passan. I think it's going to be Passan. But I do think that some bonehead is going to say Juan Soto to wherever he goes and the exact amount of money, exact amount of years, and then Heyman's going to tweet it or Passan's going to tweet it a little bit later. But we are this is I wish this was live for this, just so everybody can see how occupied we are and not doing the
As
Right?
expected. This is
right.
I'm scrolling my phone every 2 seconds looking for this.
this
Like
is
I'm
the greatest,
definitely paying attention, but like, holy.
this is the greatest.
We're all
podcast
listening,
ever.
but we're all also scrolling X and waiting for some news to happen.
By the way, if you ever want to know what ADHD looks like, this is it right here, right?
This is the perfect
having a
example.
conversation like this, being like 5 different places at once.
See,
Yeah, listen.
if I knew how to make this live, this would be live right now on our Instagram. But this, I mean, we're all over the place, and it seems as if
We're just waiting for that one tweet that says, blah blah blah, Soto to the Mets.
Arson,
That's what,
Arson Judge appears headed to Giants. That's what
That was
that's what we're
insane.
looking for.
That was one of the
that was
craziest
hila-
moments
that was
in the
hilarious.
history of baseball. Arson Judge to the Giants was amazing.
That was
That was
hilarious.
another thing I was confident in last year. I had Aaron Judge going to the Giants like before 2 seasons ago, before he was even a free agent. I was wrong about that. So that was
It's really funny. It's really funny to talk about the Giants because it seems as if that every single season they sign a big name player and then it doesn't pan out, or it was just a false report or something came out a little bit too early, or whatever it is. But this year they actually got around to signing Willie Adames, which good for them.
Report just came in. Willie Adames backs out of deal with Giants.
Shut up!
no shot.
Shut up!
Hey, I'm your father. Don't speak to me that way. Anyway, yeah. So listen, Juan Soto is going to get whatever he wants. It's going to come down to who he wants to play for. Hopefully, I mean, there is more. Let's talk, unbiased here, right? Which is very hard. There is more stability in the Mets organization right now than there is on the other New York team. Carlos Mendoza has more job security than Aaron Boone. The farm system is more stacked in the Mets farm system than it is in the Bronx or Scranton, wherever their farm system is. Who cares, right? David Stearns is 1 year into his deal. Brian Cashman may be on his way out, right? Steve Cohen just bought the team with a goal to win a championship within 5 years. This is year 5. So,
and I want to add on to stability, right? You go to each position, right? Except for second base. Let's ignore second base because currently for both teams it's kind of questionable. You go to shortstop. Francisco Lindor is a solidified perennial. I don't know what the word is, but should be
Yeah,
MVP.
He's a cornerstone shortstop. Like
right. Anthony Volpe hasn't proven jack yet. Okay, now let's move over to third base. Right, where it's a little wanky there, but we also have a player who's going to be an absolute star. And what does the other team have? They have nothing there, right? They have. You can put Jazz Chisholm there again next year, who after move there just had like an average an error a game. Oswaldo Cabrera, you're going to put him there, who he's not a third baseman, he's an outfielder, right? We go to the outfield now. You have Aaron Judge, who's older than like everybody. He's a really old guy. Yeah, he's just came off his rookie contract, but he's old. I think it might be 31 or 32 years old. You look in center field. Currently, they don't have one. You have Jason Dominguez, but again, you don't really know. Like he hasn't proven himself yet. You go to the Mets, and we're bringing in. Or we have Tyrone Taylor, who we know he's a phenomenal defender.
Brandon Nimmo.
Right, but Brandon Nimmo's in. I'm just saying
and
everything.
And then you have Drew Gilbert, coming up. Like this is
everything. Everything for the Mets makes more sense for Juan Soto to come to the Mets. But again, it really is going. Again, it's going to have to come down to where he wants to play, because if he doesn't sign with the Mets, then it just meant that he didn't want to play for the Mets, which in my brain doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'd be very shocked. Like right now, I'm just not confident because we're so close to the decision. But from everything, like I said, from everything we heard about Juan Soto, the Mets are the best fit.
So someone just tweeted, "Give him $1 billion, Steve."
Yeah, hey,
Was it Jason Tango?
it's not my money.
It was some guy in Mets we trust. I don't know.
This is it's driving me up a wall, but we have to move on here. As much as I'm going to talk, you guys are going to look at your phone. Somebody else is going to talk, and then that's
Yeah.
just how it's going to. That's just how it's going to go now. But
It's how it has
so
to be tonight.
let's move on to some other Mets news. Sevy leaving us to go to the A's. 3 years, $67 million. I'll tell you how I feel about it. The second Sevy declined his qualifying offer, I knew he wasn't going to be a Met anymore. I am very, very, very happy for Severino that he got an amazing payday. I really don't think he would get anywhere near that money anywhere else. So I'm very happy for him.
He signed with the A's, so obviously he's not getting that money anywhere else.
Right, but I'm just saying I'm very happy for him that he got as much money as he did. He did. He had a very successful 1 year prove it deal, 1 year prove it season. I'm very happy for him. Going to the A's doesn't make sense. I don't know why that makes sense, especially if you want to play winning baseball. In his press conference, he said, they were a good team. But if you guys don't remember, the Oakland Athletics took 2 of 3 from the Mets when we played in city, right? So I don't understand why he decided to go there. I assume it's because they gave him 3 years, $67 million. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was getting that money anywhere else, and good for him. Like, you got paid, he made his money. Good for him. I think the biggest takeaway from this is I'm not really sure why the A's thought, like, hey, let's break the bank. It's time for us to break the bank. Luis Severino. Like, I'm not totally sure I get that, but we can make fun of the A's all we want with, like, how terrible their organizations run and a litany of things. Like, but they do have some young talent there. Yeah, like you said, they took 2 or 3 from the Mets. There's some good players in Oakland. They're not. It's not insane to think like they're not going to have like they're not going to have a good year next year in the next 3 years. But look, for Severino, he got his payday. I can't imagine it was anything other than the fact he got his money. It's a crazy amount of money for him, and good for him. I'm happy for him. He was great for us this year. I wish him nothing but the best. But
listen, Severino's making $22 million a year, something around that, right? 22.5 million, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And Frankie Montas got 17 million. Who would you rather have?
Yeah, Severino.
Right.
But,
So I think that's the market. I'll be honest with you. I think he got paid the market. The question is that nobody wanted to commit for as long to Severino as he got from the A's. You can't call them Oakland anymore because they're not in Oakland, right? So I think that's why he took him. I think he has an opt out after year 2 in that deal. The most money they ever wanted. I just saw a report earlier that the A's are now in discussions with Brent Rooker on an extension. So maybe they're trying to prime themselves ready for the move to Las Vegas. I don't know. But again, not surprised that he's not on the Mets. I am surprised and interested to see Clay Holmes sign with the Mets as a starter for 3 years, $38 million. So think about this, right? You have Severino making $67 million over 3 years, and you got Clay Holmes coming over across town to the taking the 7 line to Citi Field, making $38 million. Again, he's either going to pan out as a starter or he'll be in the bullpen and win.
I love this move. This is probably my favorite move that the Mets have made so far. I think we missed out big time on Seth Lugo and the Seth Lugo situation. So I think going and getting Clay Holmes and bringing him over for 3 years, 38, half the price of Sevy, to see what he can do, and I think he will actually thrive as a starter. You look at his stuff, and it's not reliever type of stuff, right? So he produces a lot of ground balls. He's made to pitch for for long innings. You look at relievers. Relievers are strikeout type pitchers. That's not Clay Holmes. He's got a disgusting breaking ball. He's got a really good. He's got a really good sinker. I'm really excited to see what he can do, and I think it's great. I really, really love this move.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great move. You've seen it with Seth Lugo, with Michael King too. Going from the bullpen to a starter, it's been very successful. And you pretty much hit the nail on the head about Clay Holmes. The Yankees used him as a closer in high leverage situations with guys on, and he's a contact pitcher. He's a very good pitcher. He's got very good stuff, but he is not going to get you a strikeout in a situation that you need it. And that's why I think he failed so miserably with the Yankees, is that they didn't use him to his strengths by any means. I'm sure the Mets will. I'm sure they've seen what they need to see from Clay Holmes, turning him to a starter. And again, if it doesn't work out, they put him in the bullpen. But he's not a guy that's going to come in and get you those big strikeouts. That's why he failed on the other side of town. Sorry, I keep saying it, but
it's all good. All good. You're a guest.
But I like the move. I'm a big fan of it. And like we said, worst case scenario, he ends up in the bullpen. He's a fine arm out there, but not for coming into a bases loaded, nobody out type situation. He's just got to be used to his strengths.
Like you just said, I mean, he really the reason why he failed in the Bronx is because they had no idea how to use him. He is a contact pitcher, and with the Mets, the Mets have a great infield, especially with Lindor leading that group, which we can talk about how it's crazy that he wasn't a Gold Glove finalist. But yeah, I mean, he's going to fit in. He's going to fit in really well to the way the Mets work and the lab that's going on. I think Hefner's going to have a lot of fun with him. Moving on to some other small deals that happened. One of these happened today, and a couple of them happened over the weekend and a couple of days ago. The Mets signed Oliver Ortega to a minor league deal. I have no. By the way,
I've never heard this guy's name before in life.
I've never heard about this guy's name. The last time he pitched was in 2023 with, I believe, the Rockies. He posted a 4.58.
Someone did his homework.
Yeah,
I've never heard this guy.
He posted. I believe he posted a 4.58 ERA. He got hurt last year and had season-ending shoulder. He last pitched in 2023 with the Twins, a 4.30 ERA in 10 appearances. Signed with Houston last winter, but needed elbow surgery in March to remove loose bone.
This is the only thing I want to know about Oliver Ortega. Okay, does he know what's going on with Juan Soto?
I wonder. I don't know, but all I know is that he does not have a spring training invite. So it was strictly a minor league deal.
Okay.
We also re-signed Alex Ramirez and Grant Hartwig, which we talked about a couple episodes about. And I believe the consensus is that we're both very happy that we got them back.
When we did speak about that, when we did speak about that, I thought Alex Ramirez was a little older. He's still only 21 years old. So I'm happy he's brought back. Hopefully he figures it out. I mean, he was the prospect that they held on to. Didn't want to include him in any deals. I hope he figures it out. And listen, I'm a fan of Grant Hartwig. I am. I've said that before. I think he has the stuff. I think he he's got to figure it out. So I'm happy that Mets brought both these guys back.
Yep, I agree. I think I'm with you on everything. I think Grant Hartwig is a guy that could contribute to this team. I'm glad he's back. Like you said about Alex Ramirez, he was the guy they kept all this time. I'd hate to see him go somewhere else and succeed. I'm glad he's here. Well, I don't mean it like that. I'm not like, I would like if he goes somewhere else. Like I really hope he sucks. Like, but it's classic. You know what? But it's classic Mets that like a guy like that would leave. And
you know what's really great. when we traded Jared Kelnick, Father, you said he's like, oh, I hate this. He's the next Mike Trout. This and that. You were
Oh,
saying that he was.
I'm so
You
sold
were
on so sold on it.
you were so mad when we got rid of Jared Kelnick, and look where he is now. I think he's been on
But he's
4 or
putting
5
it
different
together.
teams already.
Hey, Jared Kelnick, my boy, he's starting to put it together. Right? He's not the stud. He hasn't turned into the stud that I thought he was going to be. And yes, I was very concerned about acquiring a reliever, a closer, and taking on Robinson Cano's money and giving up on Jared Kelnick, who at the time I thought his name was Kellenick,
Kalenic or
Kellenick,
something.
whatever. Yeah,
Kalenic.
but I mean, I still think highly of him, and I think he will put together a good career. But I am certainly happy to have the Edwin Diaz trumpets blasting at Citi Field. So my bad on that one.
I gotta say, I was with you though when I saw that Jared Kelenic was in that deal. I was irate. I couldn't believe it. It was Brody Van Wagenen's first move, and I already felt like he was a used car salesman to begin with. Like I hated him the second they hired him. I was so against everything Brody Van Wagenen. And then he made that move. I'm like, this guy's running the team like he's playing MLB The Show. Like this, I thought it was horrific, and it ended up panning out great. Edwin Diaz is Edwin Diaz. He's very good. Kellenic struggled. He's still like, I can still see him putting it together, but he's not the Met. I thought the same thing. I thought he was the next Mike Trout, but he's not going to be.
When the Mets drafted him, right? When the Mets drafted him, this is what I do on every Mets. Just so you know, right? This is what I do at every Mets draft. I don't spend a ton of time looking at scouting videos and all that other stuff, but like I did a deep dive to Jared Kelnick, and I loved what I saw. His swing was, a combination of Darryl Strawberry and Ken Griffey smooth. It was just so consistent, so powerful, so slick. I loved his swing, and
Have you done your research into Carson Benj?
so ever since then I've stopped. So like, I'm not a scout, but wait, I wanted to be a scout, but
Carson Benj is. I'm excited. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be a phenomenal bat. I don't believe he's a great fielder. But I really do think he's gonna be a phenomenal bat. If we're talking about
he's a two-way guy, right?
He was, but he said he's gonna stay. He's gonna only swing the wood. Let's move on to some MLB news while we all anxiously wait. Willie Adames to San Francisco, 7 years, 182 million.
Hold it.
You did call it. You called it in our predictions episode. I know. Fley, you said that you thought he was going to go to the Mariners. You thought he made a lot of sense there.
Yes.
And I saw him going to the Braves. So, Father, you are right on this one. You get the check. You get the point. What? Tell us what made you see him going there.
It just made the perfect sense. I knew that they would have to pay him a lot of money, and 182 is a lot of money. He They needed to build off of that whole Arson Judge, Carlos Correa disaster, and they've been trying to put it together, trying to convince people to come to San Francisco, and it's a hard sell. San Francisco is a hot mess. I'm talking about the city, so it's hard to convince people to go there, and I just thought he made the perfect sense. I mean, listen, Orlando Arcia is not a long term solution in Atlanta, but I just didn't see the Braves spending that type of money on him, and just San Francisco made sense. So Willie Adames is making me look very smart.
He is, and it would make Juan Soto can make you look very smart in the next 5 minutes. Flay, what made you think that he was going to go to Seattle?
I felt like Seattle was going to spend this offseason. It seemed like they really had not a big collapse, but they were in control of the American League West last year, and the Astros turned it on towards the end. They're a team that feels like they feel like they're close to being ready to be in the playoffs and really make some impacts in the playoffs. I felt like this is an offseason they were going to make some moves. And like I said, Willie Adames would have been the perfect fit. They need a shortstop desperately. I got to say, I watch a lot of baseball. I, to this day, don't understand the love affair they have with J.P. Crawford and why. I get it. He's a pretty good defensive shortstop. The guy can't hit a lick. The guy cannot hit at all. And Willie Adames would have been an enormous upgrade. I felt like that was the biggest position of need for them. And Willie Adames was, in my opinion, probably the second best player on the market this offseason. It would have been a big splash for them. I just thought it made too much sense for both sides. But
Yeah.
he's a guy he got paid $182 million, right?
Yeah, $182 million.
Good for him. That's great money. Like your father was saying, San Francisco's a tough city right now. It's really not a destination city like it may have been back in the day. It is a disaster. I got my girlfriend's aunt lives out there. It's aunt or cousin, I forget what she is. Lives out there, and she tells me all the time about how miserable it is. So,
they have an app where if you find feces, crap, poop on the floor, you can report it, and it pins. So and if you take a look from a zoomed out view, the entire city is filled with crap. It's like there's crap everywhere.
Disgusting.
It's the grossest thing ever. It's a real thing too. It's crazy.
We are at an hour, so we're gonna go over one quick thing. Tyler O'Neill signed with Baltimore for 3 years, $49, with a opt out after 2025, which makes me think that Santander is gone. Gary Sanchez signed with the O's also. I saw a report from MLB Trade Rumors that the Dodgers, Red Sox, and the other team in New York have been actively pursuing Tio Hernandez and Anthony Santander, which I believe is good news for the Mets, but time will tell. And that's going to wrap it up for now. Next episode, we're going to dive into this golden at-bat rule, which will be a big discussion. We'll go. I guess we'll do a little quick preview of how everybody thinks of it. I think it is a load of bull. I think this is not the first time it's been brought up. It won't happen. If it does happen, it makes no sense. Father, what are your thoughts on the golden at bat rule?
It's called a lineup for a reason, right? You have a batting lineup, right? If it's not your turn at bat, sit the hell down.
Fley.
I fully agree. I think it's the stupidest thing. I could probably talk for an hour on my own at what I think about Rob Manfred, and none of it good. This is insane. There's no reason to do something like this. It takes you see so many of these moments in history that Rajai Davis's home run against the Cubs in 2016, Bill Mazeroski's walk-off home run against the Bronx squad in 1960. These guys were
Patrick Mazeika back-to-back walk-offs.
Yes. How about David Freese, 2011 hero? Stuff like that makes baseball so great. It makes the game amazing when these guys come up with these big moments.
You forgot about Omar Narvaez's walk-off in April this year.
Yes, of course.
His only hit of the season.
It
is his only hit of the season.
Oh my God, Omar Narvaez.
I think I agree. It takes away that nobody hero. It takes away the fun. It takes away the, oh God, who the hell is this guy coming up? And then you're like, oh, this guy.
Yep.
Brett Phillips in the World Series, Tampa Bay Dodgers.
Yes.
Right? Where he had to get oxygen because he had to run away from all his teammates who wanted to kill him.
It'll ruin baseball. That's all I'm going to say. We will go into it a little bit further and deeper in the next episode. So we're going to wrap up here. always remember that we want to hear from you guys. The DMs are always open. We like to hear from you. If you think we're stupid, if you think we're whatever, let us know. We're sponsored by shoptheshirt.com. Go to shoptheshirt.com, use the code OMGPod to get 5% off your order. You can get custom shirts, holiday stuff, whatever it is. Go to shoptheshirt.com, use the code OMGPod, and don't forget to follow us on all socials. Thank you very much, everybody.
Fley, thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for joining, Fley.
Guys, anytime you want me on, I had a lot of fun. You guys are great. This was fun, and hopefully we get some good Soto news soon.
And
this is crazy that we're. I feel like we haven't talked. And the crazy thing is, we're on for over an hour now, and I feel like we haven't talked because we've been like checking our phones to see what happened.
This is going to be probably the most interesting episode ever, except for the one that we might make in about 2 hours. But all I'm saying is, by this time next week, we're going to be over the Soto situation. That's for sure. Anyways, thank you all for being here.